You guys have been asking for the Ram update, and I'm so excited to show you guys. There's been hundreds and hundreds of hours of labor behind me, all these finishing touches to get it to this point. She looks perfect. Also in this episode, we're gonna explore the Ramcharger. We got to see it in person. We're gonna talk batteries and chemistry and all the parts going into this. Ray is coming down from Edison. So much into this episode. You don't wanna miss a single thing. This is everything you wanted to know where we're at with our hybrid electric 95 Dodge Ram. Here we go. This is the process that we'll be using to put our electric motors underneath any and every single pickup truck that's been built in the last 6 decades. We just had the batteries roughly sized, ready for our generator. We just had this one mocked up. I'm really excited. I was a little worried about the color first, but I think it is actually the perfect color. Chase and I were given an opportunity that we couldn't pass up.
We're on schedule, even though it feels like it's taking a while.
People don't really realize just how many electronics need to get crammed into these things.
If you're a glutton for punishment and you think you can get her done in time, I know you have your timetable that you want to keep.
Yeah.
Okay, it's back, and I'm missing one wheel bearing, which is on the bench, but we're gonna put this underneath this beautiful frame for the last time. We'll probably have to adjust the height on our springs once we get the batteries and everything in there, once we get the weight figured out, but that's an exciting day.
So there was a lot of comments on who's going to be able to afford this. Keep in mind, we are building a show truck. Not all of the installs are going to go to this extent. There's a lot of things that are going to change because this is a prototype. You can sandblast the frames, you can paint it, you can paint the truck, you can put new interior in it, you can do whatever you want. Or you can just take the kit that we're putting together and put it in the truck. So that's up to the installer and the customer as to how much they want to spend on giving their truck a second life. And keep in mind that these axles is just a test to see, is it possible that we take all these suspension bits and the axle tubes and just replace the mechanical center diff? Dana already makes an S110 electric, so that is a straight-on, bolt-on through the back of any dually that runs the like a 450, 550, and GM, Dodge, and Ford all use that same axle. So while we're doing a cost analysis on this, getting everything in order and fundraising together for our dual motor, once we have the kit working, we can buy a stock axle that's already finished, made with the proper hubs and everything, and bolt those onto the 450s. Now, another upgrade that we absolutely loved and had to do was our Synergy suspension upgrade for all of the steering components. Now, these are super heavy, all completely adjustable, and they fix some of the geometry of Dodge's old death wobble. Now, we chose this Dodge on purpose because it wasn't known for the best truck, it was known for the Cummins. And a lot of people say I drive a Cummins, they don't say I drive a Ram. If we're able to keep this thing going straight down the road with all of the work that we've done to it, we can do that to basically any other truck. All of this is adjustable so that my alignment guy is not going to have a stroke when he gets this rolling in, with all of the weight being completely different. And we also added a steering brace here as well, thanks to Jimmy from Roadrunner Towing, who got me out of a jam because I was an idiot and got rid of my steering box because, well, it was pretty sloppy and I thought I could take the two-wheel drive. They're different. So he had this one sitting on a Dodge and in his yard, and that really braces the mount from the steering motor on the driver's side over to the passenger side. Because keep in mind, all of this steering is now done through 3 bolts in the side here. You saw me replace the horns on this. This is kind of a weak spot on the Dodge, so we're able to fix that at the same time. As for the unsprung weight, we absolutely agree that this is a lot of weight in the middle, and unsprung means that this weight does not get absorbed by our nice springs from Synergy as well, because this takes all the abuse from the road. This is also a giant motor hanging out kind of out the back. It kind of wants to roll. That's why we've got our forward link arms, which are super beefy as well. That'll take up some of that, but the one that we're designing has the motor and the planetary gear system basically in the hub right here. So none of this weight is hanging out past, and that entire cooling system is done in a wet sump. The electric motor is actually a wet sump. Again, this is just a theory to see if we can do this. It's a lot of money to design the center section, so we want to do a proper cost analysis with T&K to see what is actually involved in adapting these axle tubes to a center section that's already pre-built. So in the kit, we would put the axle together and send that out to the installers, so you guys don't have to worry about any of this, and then we would be able to warranty that and test it in our facility, spin it up, make sure it doesn't leak, make sure that the suspension is properly, and we would have all the jigs put together for all of the different suspension and steering systems that are out there. Now, as pretty as this is, the wheels and tires, they can make or break a vehicle, and I love our Ultra Wheel wheels with our Nitto grapplers. I am a little disappointed about taking them off my truck though, because man, does that ever look good with those on there. I think I'm gonna have to buy another set. It's perfect. I love the stance, but we're gonna move those over to here and put this thing together. You'll notice that the axle itself is still missing. It is at T&K, the splines are cut, everything's welded. We're just waiting for them to face the back of it to make it perfectly square. But we're gonna take everything apart again anyway. We gotta do some e-brakes and stuff on this. Just gotta put these tires on. All right, so we had T&K make our generator for us. I already snapped off some of the 3D printed little prongs, but this is just for sizing. This is to make sure that it fits underneath the hood for this and the Land Cruiser. We're doing the same with the batteries. I'm not gonna make the mount or anything for the batteries until I have them, but we have a rough size of what it would be. Now the batteries are not gonna be this light. I have been working out, but not enough to lift a 600-pound battery into the spot, but sends chills down my spine. So we've done a lot of work to get to this point. You guys have no idea how many meetings, idea changes, but there's still a lot to do. Chase and I were given an opportunity that we couldn't pass up. So here we go.
Ram brought us out here. They showed us all these tracks and they're like, look, these are out here for testing in the desert. There's off-road tracks, big hill pulls.
They've got the Davis Dam Hill, which is an 11-mile run of a 6% grade up and down, where they tow these Mini X's and tractors, making sure that the trucks don't overheat, that you're not white knuckling it. In November 2023 was when Ram released the idea of we're gonna build this hybrid truck, which is basically the exact same time you and I started talking and saying, hey, let's do a pickup truck version of this.
I still feel like we have $0 compared to Ram. I feel like they spend more money here at this event than we do on
for our entire R&D. We were hoping that the Ramcharger was here, but unfortunately it's not ready yet.
But they did have their engineers here, so we were able to sit down, talk with some of their big corporate guys, and more importantly, their engineers. And one of the things is like, with the Ramcharger, well, what happens if your battery is dead? And you can still pull that hill, but it's pulling it slower, they're telling us. And you're like, well, how do we optimize that so it has a full battery, and how do we get that driver knowledge in there? And like, you got to work with your customer to make sure that they know how this truck's going to perform.
Right. Think about it. When you're going up a hill, your truck is talking to you. The pitch changes in the engine. It starts growling a little bit, right? When we have our generator running, it's 1 RPM and it has a complete disconnect with the throttle. So Ram said, you know, what we did was actually, when you are wanting to go faster and your generator's going, they do increase the RPMs of the generator a little bit just to give you that feeling
mentally.
a little bit, right?
Like, that's like putting speakers in your truck in an electric vehicle to make it sound like it's making noise. You're like, revving up the generator doesn't do anything, but it's what somebody associates. So it's like, do you do what's normal? Do you do what's abnormal? How do we handle that on our end for programming team? Because right now our programming team is working extremely hard programming all these axles and generators, and these are the kind of things that they need to think about, and we need to relay this information we've learned here to them. Actually, today, while filming this, Derek and the high voltage engineers are at our battery manufacturer. So right now, they are just testing the batteries with the manufacturer, make sure the voltage are okay, make sure the charging cycle's okay. They're doing some thermal testing and like reliability testing on those batteries at the factories before we get them shipped over here. So it's actually great that we're at this stage. You've just completed your chassis. The semi-truck builds on the Edison Motors channels are just getting their chassis complete. So we're on schedule, even though it feels like it's taking a while.
We need to be comfortable with the trucks before we can let you guys have them, because unless we are 100% satisfied with them, we're not going to be selling these kits. We're going to keep pushing and keep engineering and keep making them better, right? And now it's basically just a race. Who can get their truck done first, Ram or Edison, as to who can have video of a truck going up a hill.
The billion-dollar company or 3 dudes in a garage in Canada.
And this is kind of cool. This is the hybrid setup in their half-ton truck. So this is the first series hybrid that we kind of see in North America. Generally, when we talk about hybrid in North America, it's a parallel, meaning that it's an electric motor on a transmission that just kind of assists. But this is just a V6 gas engine with a generator, and that charges batteries and runs 2 electric motors on the front and the back. We can see here that this frame is much wider. So rather than having a long and skinny fuel tank, they've got a very square one at the back. Batteries are underneath the entire center section of the floor, which is really nice for weight distribution. And then we've got the same components that we would front and back. They do have exhaust that runs all the way along the side. Having to work with a nicer, wider frame like this is a little bit nicer. Now, if you're thinking trucks, really all it is a frame with a body and a box on it, because it still has independent front suspension and independent rear suspension on the back. Still only one motor driving both tires. So you can see the gear reduction, which is right here, and then a BMS on top, I'm not sure. And every time you add an electric motor to a system, it actually decreases the amount of power used to propel the entire vehicle as a whole. Why a V6 gas? I don't understand. Like, Stellantis, you've got your own Fiat diesel engines. Like, why? Such a perfect missed opportunity. So it's interesting, they have a front sump oil pan, and then that leaves lots of room for the motor in the back. The bracing is completely different throughout the frame because there's no torsional twist in the truck. When you step on your gas on a vehicle, even having one longer drive shaft on one side than the other, or CV shaft, will give you torque steer because of that delay, right? And if you see the transport trucks, like, when they pull away, you can see them kind of twist every time they shift. All of that's gone. So all of that has to get transferred through the frame, but there's none of that in an electric truck because all of it is just in the front axle. So your motor wants to twist, but that's it. So there's no massive engine cradle in the front. It's very much in the front here, but it's still underneath the oil pan, and the oil pan is the front sump to allow for the motor in the back. This is still a very tall engine, I feel. The Cummins, I think, is probably only comes up to about here if you put it to the oil pan. So even with the Ram, I'm taking the entire engine and picking it up basically and moving it forward. So we've got tons of room underneath. Everything's secured really nice except for the high voltage wire, which is just kind of looped through the vehicle and like zip tied. That's one of my nightmares when we're putting the truck together, is I want like secure clamps like every 8 inches holding this high voltage wire together. They just kind of have it looped, and I guess it's not as big of a concern to them. This is probably the first prototype. I hope they change a lot of stuff. There's really cheap brackets holding the fuel pump and the air compressor together in the back there. So
and you hit that wrong, that's gonna fall out, rattle out. The ABS is right in the front bumper here. You just if you hit a dog, your ABS is kicking out. And then the full air ride suspension, so that they don't need springs or heavy coils or anything. Everything is on an air ride as well. So that is comfortable. Ram's been doing that in the half-ton trucks, and it is a nice way to ride around. Super comfortable.
So the Ramcharger has a combined torque of 610 foot-pounds and 647 horsepower on a dual motor. So how does that half-ton truck compare to our 3/4 ton? Ray is here from Edison, and Ray's title is Chief Production Officer, and he's kind of helping me go from here to the next stage, and that involves placing parts and kind of figuring out what we're actually doing. So the axles on our frame are just temporary, and we've said this before, but we got them because they were off the shelf. We made our own housings, but now we can get a head start on testing everything else on the road and on the dyno. So while our motors make less than 250 foot-pounds each, they're still reduced, same as a low gear in a transmission. They get stepped down as they hit the tires. That will change with the dual motor. And as soon as we get our real world data, we can make better decisions as to what is best for a half-ton, 3/4 ton, 1 ton, and bigger trucks moving forward. I want to talk to you guys about batteries. We changed our battery chemistry. So while Ram is using NMC batteries, we are using LMO.
What we had before was lithium iron phosphate batteries. Super reliable, super safe, low performance. So we started looking around, we saw lithium manganese oxide, LMO. They are much higher performing, keeping it conscious that we need a safe battery. It's gonna last a long time, but the one that can give us the performance we need. So when the generator is recharging and when you're going down a hill and you need that regen, the LMO will take both charges together, where the lithium iron phosphate will only take one or the other. This is just a nice little bit of cushion. They discharge and recharge faster than what we anticipated at a cooler temperature, which is exactly what we want.
These batteries are replaceable. If there's something better that comes along in a couple years from now, then we can switch to that.
They'll literally bolt in, bolt for bolt, same dimension, same width, same everything. Slap it in. The only difference is the chemistry in the cells.
Nice. So we have a lot of other components, but we're missing the PDU still. A couple, the stuff that's on the skid that's halfway between Alberta and here now. You guys don't understand how smart Ray is. Ray is kind of this, he oversees kind of everybody, and he was smart enough not to let the skid leave until after he left, so it wouldn't arrive until after he went home, so I have to do everything. He says he's here to help me. So let's start putting some of the components in. We'll pull the interior out of the cab.
Okay, so a little bit of surface rest, but no big deal. We'll get the young guy to grab the paintbrush and do a nice little slather of paint. We gotta weld a hole, like a cover for that, because we don't have a shifter anymore. The sad thing is we don't really need this hump. This hump is just kind of wasted space. Other than maybe running wires, we could probably run coolant lines and hoses in that. So yeah, actually, yeah, not bad. Now, we have a motor control unit and a PDU that we'd like inside here, right?
We have a motor control unit, the power distribution unit, and then we have a 3-in-1 inverter that needs to be still found a home for.
Okay, all right. We'd like to put stuff behind the seat and underneath the seat, and I feel like we can put most of the components in there. For this one, however, we're gonna leave the back seat out of it because we don't have these doors to swing open and nobody's really gonna be driving in here in the first place. But the reason for that is so you guys can see at shows and stuff what's all involved in getting this truck down the road. So
yeah, we got to make it look attractive for everyone seeing it, and also so people can see what's going into it, right?
Yeah.
It's really important. People don't really realize just how many electronics need to get crammed into these things, how big the electronics are.
the interesting thing is though that it's also changing all the time. So the MCU, motor control unit, which is a very large unit, is now actually inside the semi-axle, so we're hoping to incorporate that into the dual motor as well. And the
3-in-1 should get put into the PDU. PDU and the 3-in-1 were like, the 3-in-1's like, well, I'm a PDU too, and the PDU's going, okay, and then it's like, I hate you. So yeah, hopefully we can get rid of that and just put everything into one nice little box there.
It's like a marriage. I'm the alpha. No, I'm the alpha. I hate you. Whatever. Let's just work together.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got our motor control unit. So we have 3 wires going to the front axle, 3 wires going to the back axle. And then we've got our controls and then our coolant coming in and out. This is our 3-in-1, which will now take the high voltage and reduce it down to the power steering pump and the
1224 recharge.
1224 recharge.
Yeah. So it'll allow us to recharge the batteries without needing like an alternator. Essentially, it's just a big glorified alternator.
Okay, and we've got coolant coming in and out. So what I'm thinking is we turn these sideways. So the power distribution unit will basically take up the whole back wall behind the seat. It's not very thick, which is nice, but that will basically take up the back. So what I'm thinking is we turn this, because then that'll point the wires this way, and then we can run them down this channel and then out the back that way. So yeah, I like that. Now we've got our wires going down in and then forward. And then we've got our same with our coolant lines. We got them going down and then forward to wherever the block is. We've got nothing pointing forward out of either one of those boxes. Anything pointing up the back?
Yeah, we got the coolant lines here, the controller line on here.
Okay.
The DC in on this one can go right to the PDU. That's nice. The DC in on this guy here goes right to the PDU. Our DC ins are here and here. Our control for the VCU is right there. Back here, coolant, power steering pump. Can get ran that way. That's gorgeous. These ones can go to the front. Those ones can go to the back.
Nice.
Starting to flow together.
Yeah, all right.
All right, so here we got our coolant pump. It's 1.5 inches in and 1.5 inches out, 200 liters a minute, which is way more than what we need. And then Jacob, our engineer, designed this nice coolant block for us, painted, of course, in Edison, or anodized in Edison blue.
Is that patented yet? Can we sue Sinister?
Sure. So we got 1.5 inches in, 1 inch ports out. We can have the ability to plug off as many ports as we need to. We can also go down to 1/2 inch. We're using JIC fittings on all 1 inch, 3/4 inch, 1.5 inch. And what that allows you to do is to unscrew it really easily. The repairability of this is going to be just fantastic. And who doesn't like anodized aluminum?
Yeah. So now tricky part is what needs more and less cooling. So we made the ports nice and big, and that's what this is for, is to decide, okay, we're going to drive it for a bit. We're going to put our infrared on it. We're going to say, okay, this is stone cold, but the motors are running a little hot. So what we can do is just put a smaller fitting in there, just basically just pinch this off a little bit when it feeds the say the motor control unit, and then it's like, okay, that leaves a little bit more flow for something else.
Yeah, so we have a bunch of orifice valves being made up right now. They go from 18 millimeter down to 4 millimeter. So what we can do is it's just an inline valve that just literally just takes your 25.4 millimeter hole and shrinks it down to whatever you need.
Yeah.
And that restricts enough flow to allow the water to get more prioritized to other components.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be playing a game of whack-a-mole with that.
Yeah. So there is a lot of engineering to do with that, because if you take one line and you put a sharp 90 in it, that restricts the flow as well. So we'll have a general outline on what to do and how to kind of calculate it, but at the end of the day, it's still a little bit of trial and error. I think what we'll do is, now that I'm talking about it, is put this block outside the cab. Yeah. So that he's already ahead of me. Yeah. But this will go underneath the cab, so we can adjust this without having all the coolant spilling inside the cab.
You don't want to see this.
So then we can do pass-throughs. Do we have pass-throughs?
Yes.
Yeah.
You pass-throughs of a couple different sizes of pass-throughs. I don't think I sent you any 1.5 inch, but I can definitely. I got pass.
Yeah, so basically it's a pass through right through the floor, and then we can connect those hoses to this really nice block.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So these don't run that hot. The PDU doesn't have any coolant going through it at all. It's only the 3-in-1 and the MCU that are getting a little bit of coolant, but it's not like it fills up your whole cab with heat, right?
No, the MCU will run, out of both of these components, the MCU will run the hottest, just simply because it deals with 280 kilowatts of power at its peak. It's doing like 90 consistently. Even at 95% efficiency, you're still going to have just that little bit of heat coming out.
So in the winter, your kids now have heated seats in your old jalopy, that's your 1980s crew cab C10 that you guys are going to convert. The noisy parts, we're just going to stick underneath the hood right there. Look at all the room we have for components under the hood. The power steering pump, that's going to be one of the noisier components, and that's going to be running all the time. So that runs we're going to get rid of this vacuum boost, and we're going to put a hydro boost on it, and that will run the power steering. So nothing's changing with the steering on this or the steering box. We'll get rid of the power steering pump and the vacuum pump underneath the on the engine. We're just going to run this thing all the time. We are going to run the water pump here as well underneath the hood too. Now the reason we're doing that is we're going to soundproof this engine bay with the Be Quiet I've got on the Silverado and the F350. Love that stuff. You guys can get a discount on that on our website as well. Now the point of this is to get it as quiet as possible, even when the engine's running or when your power steering pump is running. We're basically just deciding whether this is the better way to do it or not. The LC actually has an electric power steering assist, so it doesn't need that, and we're using a little vacuum pump and a vacuum canister to energize those brakes. And it's basically like, let's see if that works in there, and if that's better or if this is better. And I'm thinking, because that little Cummins is in here, we can put that inverter. That inverter might be better underneath here too. Like I've got all the room right here, or right here. If we put the battery here, just the 12 volt, I can put my air filter wherever I want.
Yeah.
So maybe the inverter would actually fit really nice in this corner right here.
20?
Yeah. If that makes sense. I don't know.
That kind of works out nicely there. The big thing with the soundproofing there is one thing we discovered with Topsy. Any creak, any squeak, any rubbing whatsoever just drives you utterly insane because of how quiet the thing is. So good soundproofing on a hybrid car, even if it's just a dull the engine, if that's what you think it's for. No, it's for like that door you didn't quite close. Or it is so annoying.
Here's a question for you, Ray. I put some of the interior pieces in here already, but a friend of mine has this Ecodiesel, it's a Dodge, and we already bought the dash and the seats for this, which is a really nice chocolate leather seats. The problem is I didn't have any of the wiring for the dashboard or the wiring for the lights and whatever else. Now this is 2015, I believe, and it was full CAN bus. It's all electric, it's all fancy. Now, should we take the dashboard out of this and put it into the 95 so we have a nice modern dash with the nice leather seats? Or should we just leave it alone and run it as is? Because if I plug my wiring harness back into the other truck, the lights, the wipers, everything is working. I can take all of this out, have a more modern interior into the 95 like we did with the Caterpillar, but it's not factory. It doesn't look like it's like 100% in there.
We aren't really doing like a factory look now, are we? If you're a glutton for punishment and you think you can get her done in time, I know you have your timetable that you want to keep.
Yeah.
If you're a glutton for punishment, go for it.
Yeah.
It's a good looking interior either way.
Yeah.
You're the driver, right?
Yeah, that's right. I want to be comfortable driving all the way to out west, so I guess we'll have to make that decision. I need a headline.
Please delete this.
Where I'm deleting that, and even we went to Ram,
invited us out to test drive their trucks, and they said we got rid of that switch. Nobody likes that switch. He goes, we're back to the shifter on the column, and he goes, that was just a big giant mistake. So it took him 10 years to figure that out, but we're back to a handle. All right, so guys, comment down below if you want to see that interior in the 95 Ram, or if I should just leave it alone and leave that nice gray interior. The gray interior is in mint shape. It's just the dash is cracked. That dash has the typical factory crack that happened the day after, or the first day it hit the sun. But this truck is for sale. A friend of mine donated it to us because the Ecodiesel did blow up. We're doing everything wrong with the 3.0 Ecodiesel. Transmission's fine, transfer case is fine, wheels and tires are in good shape, all the body's in good shape. It's been under-oiled from start. So if you guys need any of these parts, they're on Facebook Marketplace. If you hit like the Hamilton area, hit me up on Instagram or something, and we'll get these parts in your hand. But we have a co-op student working for us. He's going to be kind of taking care of the sale of this. You won't meet me or anything. He'll take the parts and he'll meet you, and he'll sell all the whatever you want from this. It's in great shape. It's just unfortunately he didn't want to pay for a new truck, and he went out and bought just a plain Jane simple 5.3 no DOD truck, and that's what he's gonna be hoping is more reliable than this thing. So compressor works, air ride works, everything works, just not the engine. All right, so Ray went home because his timing is impeccable, but the skid did show up the next day. It is at T&K. I'm gonna run over there and grab that and start placing all of these pieces. So I really wanna thank you guys for watching and being patient. There's a lot of stuff that happens in the background, meetings and meeting with suppliers and manufacturers all over the continent. And really want to thank you guys for believing in the project. If you believe in it enough to invest, this round of investing is open until April 21st. So you can go to edisonmotors.ca and you'll find the portal to investing there. There is no other place to invest. We will not reach out. We will not ask for Bitcoin. We will not ask for any other thing other than telling you to go to edisonmotors.ca. That will help fund for the shop in Golden, BC. And anything above and beyond a certain threshold, that'll start filtering over here for a shop in Ontario where we can hire employees and start getting these kits out. In the meantime, I got a lot of stuff to do, so I'm gonna get back at it. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate every single one of you guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on another update soon. It'll be a lot quicker than this last section. It was just all those little things on the axles took a long time, and the parts are starting to finally roll in. So here we go.